Drug testing falls in a gray area between maintaining public health and safety and invasion of privacy. On one hand, it is necessary to ensure people, like pilots and railway workers, or in other words, people who are responsible for the lives of others, are not intoxicated on their jobs. It also ensures honesty, such as drug testing those who are on government welfare and financial aid, making sure they're not spending their money, that is hard-earned taxpayer money, on drugs. On the other hand, students and people who are otherwise not suspicious of drug use, being drug tested is an invasion of privacy and a violation of the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is what it means to be American because it offers protection from unwarranted search and seizure, implying a degree of privacy from the government. But drug testing in certain situations violate this constitutional protection. However, some Americans believe that a violation of the Fourth Amendment to a certain degree is necessary to keep everybody safe and honest. Personally, what do you believe the purpose of drug testing is, random or regular, and what purpose does it serve in a school or a workforce environment?
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll focus mostly on the school.
Yeah.
I think the purpose that we used when we had drug testing here was as kind of a deterrent for students to make good choices outside the school day.
Okay.
So, as a learning institution, we want our students to leave here with healthy habits, and that would, not using drugs or alcohol was kind of the reason why we had the drug testing when we were using it.
Okay.
In other words, it's one thing to search people when you have a reasonable suspicion that may be the outcome of several indicators from behavior to physical conditions, to reputation, to surreptitious activity, to a report by a fellow student. But to just say anyone and everyone, regardless of how good they are, how good grades they might have, which is often also an indicator that you are not using drugs, has to be tested in order to kick a ball, seems to be going too far.
The privacy guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment, along with the other rights safeguarded by the Bill of Rights, are integral to what it means to be American. As stated, drug testing under suspicion, or in other words, with a reason, is not an invasion of privacy. However, when drug testing is mandatory for students at a school environment where they are entitled to privacy, it infringes on the constitutional rights protected by the Fourth Amendment. However, sometimes a violation of this right is not necessarily wrong.
Certainly.
And what is the genesis for this discussion at the state level? I mean, what's really driving the policy discussion? We know that a number of states are having real fiscal challenges. Are they looking at a way to lower their welfare roll costs, or is something else driving this debate?
Well, I can only tell you what the supporters and the sponsors of the bills have told me. What they've told me is that they're just interested in making sure that all their tax dollars and all the money that they do have is spent correctly. So they're saying that they don't want the money spent on drugs. They also say that they want to encourage people to be healthy and to...
As previously mentioned, drug testing to ensure that taxpayers' money isn't spent on illegal drugs is a great concept as it supports being responsible. It also helps encourage people to spend money on needs such as clothing, food, water, and medicine rather than wants. Drug testing those who receive government aid and are suspected of using that money on drugs is a way to ensure that hard-earned taxpayer money is not being spent on recreation through substance abuse, both legal and illegal.
How new an idea is this, and how did it first get started?
The idea has tossed around for a while. It's permitted under the welfare law that was passed back in 1996. But Michigan was doing it for a while after the law was passed, and it was suspended, like this Florida law has been, by a court raising constitutional concerns. That
about right to privacy?
Yeah, that search without reasonable cause. You can't assume that just because someone's applying for benefits, that's a basis for suspecting them.
So although drug testing people for unemployment benefits may seem like a good idea, it is still ultimately an invasion of people's privacy. While yes, it would ensure the welfare money is not being wasted on drugs, the Fourth Amendment defines protection from the unreasonable search and seizure as an unconstitutional right. If the state decides to drug test people on welfare without reasonable suspicion and threatens to take away benefits if they don't comply, it would be a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Now, I do think it is an effective tool, but not every job needs to have it. Depends on the employer, depends on, like I said, if it's a government job, and if it's consistent, if it's thorough, and it's not involuntary where someone doesn't want to do it, then I think it's within the rights, and if as long as it's within the rights of the courts, then I do think it's effective and useful.
The officer mentioned that drug testing can maintain public safety and protection if utilized properly. He also states that drug testing can help schools, jobs, and other facilities stay protected from illegal substances, acting as a deterrent from such behavior. However, when implemented fairly, guidelines are in place that preserve the rights to privacy guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment.
as far as like a random drug test goes, unless it's something that you signed up for in like a job. So I know previously when I worked for law enforcement, we got random drug tested because that's what we signed up for, and we understood that when we signed up for that job. However, just to be able to grab somebody randomly out of a school or randomly out in there in the community and say, hey, I'm going to drug test you just randomly because I want to randomly drug test you, I don't think is really ethical, especially because, if it's not something that somebody signed up for, it kind of takes away from their amendment right.
When discussing the topic on drug testing with my boss, who was a former police officer, we both agreed that drug testing is acceptable in a work environment when accidents occur, and or when public safety becomes an issue. When drug testing is used on random people, then it is considered an invasion of privacy because it is a search without warrant or suspicion, which is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment.
I don't think that we should adopt a big brother mentality and force everybody to submit to drug testing as a rule. I think it opens a Pandora's box. What's next? They get to look in our personal email to see what we're talking about. We have to be careful because there's usually unintended consequences of some of those rules that we create to solve one problem, and then they create a whole bunch of new problems.
The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and thus the document itself and the rights and powers it protects are ultimately what it means to be American. Part of this includes the rights to privacy, as alluded to by the Fourth Amendment's protection against unwarranted search and seizure. While some instances of drug testing can be seen as appropriate, they are ultimately an invasion of privacy and should not be allowed without warrant or reasonable suspicion.